Hi, I'm gonna try to do some videos so that I could help you review some stuff because you're gonna have your test this Friday. So those of you that are looking at this, take really good notes, pause, rewind. That way, if you have any other questions after you go through this, you'll be able to ask me a little bit better. So we're gonna get started with stem changers. So that's something that I wrote down already for you guys. So stem changers, what is a stem changer verb? Well, I wrote down here they're verbs with extra changes. And these changes happen to be inside the stem. If you don't know what the stem is, really quick, whenever I have a verb, I divide it into two parts, the stem and the verb ending. The stem of the verb is usually the beginning part of it, and it's what gives me meaning. The end part of the verb tells me that it's either going to be an AR, ER, or IR verb. These are the only types of verbs that exist. So when we're looking at these stem changers, there's going to be a change right in here inside the stem. So changes happen in here. So let me give you another example. We have repetir. So divided up into two parts, the stem and then the ending. As we could tell, this is an IR verb. Knowing if it's an IR verb, it's an ER verb, or like down here, an AR verb, it's going to help you to decide what conjugation endings do you use. So once you identify where the stem is, the next step is try to figure out what kind of change do these specific verbs have. For instance, let's take entender. Your options for stem changes are going to be E to IE, O to UE, or E to I. I don't think this marker works well with what I'm doing, so I'll try to change one really quick. So give me 2 seconds, and I should be able to change this and show you a little bit differently. So this marker doesn't work. Okay, so come back. Three possible changes. So E to IE, O to UE, and then E to I. There's no way really how to determine what type of a verb we have based on anything that you see here. The way that we know what type it is obviously by previous memorization. What I did for you is I had you write them down, so you already have a list with them, with either the UE, IE, or I. So once we know that we have this stem, once we know what type of conjugation ending, then the next thing will be try to figure out where this change in the stem is going to happen. So there's this cool rule. Once you identify the ending, the vowel closest to that is the one that gives you the stem change. So once you identify the stem and the ending, the vowel closest to your ending, in this case is this E, is the one that's going to have the stem change. Again, once you identify the type of verb that it is, either AR, ER, or IR, so look for that first. Now go inside the stem, and the vowel closest to that AR is the one that's going to have the change. So we have an O, we have an E, and we have an E. Based on these three changes, we could tell that almorzar, this O, automatically you know that that's going to have a UE to change. So when we conjugate almorzar, we know to say almuerzo. So that's why we end up writing almuerzo, or we end up saying yo almuerzo. So between repetir and entender, there's really nothing, no clue, because there's an either, there's an either. I can't tell which of these two changes they're going to have. So again, you have a list with them already, or maybe you've been exposed to them already, or maybe you already know how to say them, so you could tell it's going to be an IE, it's going to be an I. So for repetir, this happens to be an E to I. For entender, this happens to be an E to IE. So let me pause this and then I'll get back to the next part. So I just wrote out the chart, so I will be ready for you. So let's take a look at the three verbs that I just had you look over. So we have entender with the two parts, remember ER and the stem, repetir with the IR and then the stem, almorzar with the AR and then the stem. I still circle the same letter that I had before, which is the vowel closest to the ending, and it will tell me which letter actually it's going to have the change. So whenever I have to conjugate, remember we still go back to that chart. The chart that tells me this is the yo form, the to form, LA, etc., etc. But to make it even more easier, we use a graphic organizer that will tell you how many times do I have to apply this IE in there when I'm conjugating. So the graphic organizer is what we call a shoe or a boot pattern. So if I draw it, you could see that only those forms inside the shoe are going to have this change. Whatever I have out here, do not apply that change. So if I'm going to take entender, for me the easiest thing to do is conjugate the ones that have nothing, no extra change. So all we do is go nosotros entendemos. Notice how I didn't use the IE. This will be entendéis with the right accent. But what happens in here? I can't reuse the same entend part of this. What I have to do is obviously conjugate it with this extra change. So then I would have to do entiendo. Notice that I have my IE right there. The to form will be entiendes. Again, there is my IE. This will be entiende, again, IE, and entienden. Same process for all of them. Remember, the shoe tells me, or the boot tells me where do I stem change. So in these forms, we stem change. If you don't know what person belongs to this specific chart, look over your notes that we took on Monday, because you should be able to look at that. Okay, so if I go to repetir, remember it's this E that changes. So I'm going to write R-E-P-I-T and then conjugate, repito. And then repite if we're doing the L ella. But outside, nothing happens. So this becomes repetimos and repetís. So same process for almorzar. Nothing happens outside of the stem or the outside of the shoe or the boot. So this becomes almorzamos. Notice how the O stayed exactly like that. But if I go to one of the forms inside the shoe, then I know this becomes almuerzas. As a native speaker, we really don't understand this change, but as a non-native speaker, we need to be able to generalize the rules, and the best way to do that is obviously by having this graphic organizer. This graphic organizer will work for any O to UE, E to I, or E to IE verb. And remember, we selected a lot of these in our list, or you label a lot of these, okay? Thank you.